Hey, Podnutzians, welcome to Android App Addicts, episode 565. This episode is brought to you not by a paid sponsorship like I'm some kind of shill. This is a paid sponsorship from a user just like you, and their name is Kathy B. I want to say thank you very much, Kathy B, for being a former Patreon subscriber for over 2 years. If you still listen to the show, just let us know that everything's okay. Please, by an email. You can email me directly at mail@podnutz.com or doortodoorgeek@gmail.com. I just like to make sure that people who considered me enough family to help support this show directly, they're doing okay. So thank you very much for your support, Kathy. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter and guarantee the future ad-free nature of this podcast and all shows on Podnutz, to be honest, just go to patreon.com/Android App Addicts. Links in the notes. I am joined tonight by Josh. How's everything going, my man?
Things are going pretty well, Dor. It's good to see you again. It's been quite a long time, and I'm sure that everyone understands circumstances these days. And it's good to be back up on the saddle. I've been doing a lot of home improvements, I guess you would say. My mother-in-law's moved in, and so we've done a lot of accessibility, I guess, improvements with grab bars on the toilet and grab bars for the shower. And I also spent 2 days putting in an electric chair lift, which was meant to go on the right side of the stairs, but I decided that I was smart enough to put it on the left. And so basically dismantled the entire thing and put it back together. And with blood, sweat, and a lot of swearing, I managed to get that up and running. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And then right when I got that done, I went to do a load of laundry, and the washing machine was broken. And so I spent way too much time troubleshooting that and then getting a new drain pump. So I actually got that done today. So yeah, life owning a house, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say you if you wake up and there's nothing to do left on the house, that's the day your spouse is going to say, "Now let's sell the house." So
Right.
because you cannot sit still, there's always going to have to be something. So I want to ask you, just for giggles, do you know how long it's been since we've done a show?
Oh man, I would say 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
It's been about 2 months.
Wow.
Um, and I will say, I take all responsibility for there not being consistent shows. Long and the short, January, uh, decent shoulder pain in my right shoulder. Wake me up in the middle of the night. Go to the orthopedic doctor. They send me to go get an MRI. I get returned back from the MRI late February. They say, okay, well, you really should schedule a appointment with a orthopedic surgeon. Okay. I wait like 3 or 4 days, call up the orthopedic surgeon. Literally 2 hours earlier, my governor shut down the state. And they said, well, we can see you on June the 9th. It's right now June the 9th. I mean, I'm sorry, July the 9th. July the 9th. I kept calling up trying to get earlier appointments. They said, nope, ain't going to happen. Because ever since late March, my left shoulder was hurting easily 10 times more than my right shoulder. And I don't go to the doctors frequently for, stuff. So this was actually pain. This was ridiculous pain. Um, Today I went and he injected me with cortisone, gave me what I didn't know was a prescription for a oral cortisone. I thought it was always shots. What do I know? Literally 5 seconds after he gave me the shot, easily 95% of the pain completely gone. So he believes I don't need surgery. I got to go back in 4 weeks. Hopefully, I don't need surgery. All I want is the pain to be gone. So if you want to blame somebody for this show not coming out often enough, I'm your guy.
Well, I think that Ivor shares the blame, mainly because he's not here. So why not shed it over to him a little bit?
I'm not going to argue that fact.
Well, as far as the cortisone go, I know that that's what professional athletes, football players will go in and have a cortisone shot at halftime, and they come back out and they're right as rain most of the time.
Oh yeah, I mean it was literally 5 seconds after the shot. Which of course, but as soon as he gets puts a shot in me, he says, Here comes the pointy thing. Oh, great. So I didn't even look at it. I just looked off in the distance. And for like 3 seconds, hurt pretty bad. You know, it's a needle. It's going to do that. But then literally 2 seconds after that, it was literally like stress and pain and pressure just gone, completely gone. Now, the only pain I've had since then, what I think is literally just muscle pain from me trying to control everything and not overstress myself. So yeah, hopefully everything's going to go back to normal.
How did you ever look at the needle? Like, how long of a needle are we talking about here?
When he took it out and went over, the actual metal part of the needle was easily 2 inches, and it was definitely thicker than I expected it to be. And I do know the thickness of the needle is directly dependent on what they're injecting. Some things need bigger needles. Bigger needles equal more pain. So yeah.
So how far did it go? I mean, they rooting around in your shoulder with it? Or?
Well, I'll say this. Thankfully, while he was doing this, he was super just calm and collective. Telling the junior guy, because this is Johns Hopkins Educational Institution, he was explaining to him how the best thing about giving a cortisone shot in the shoulder is there's really not a lot of spare room in there. Even if the guy has almost no cartilage, you really can't put a lot of cartilage in there. So it's very easy to know when you're hitting the right spot. And the needle looked like it could have been like maybe 2 or 3 inches filled with cortisone. And when he was done, less than half of it was gone, is what it looked like. It could have been even less than that. So it didn't look like it needed a lot, but we're gonna see how it goes, is what I'll say.
Does it actually go into the cartilage or something, or do they just kind of spray it in there and call it good?
Well, the impression I got, because I asked him a little bit, the impression I got was it, when you look at the X-ray, the spot where there's nothing is cartilage because X-rays pass right through it. He said he can tell by the width of the nothing that most of my cartilage was still there. So he didn't expect it to be able to uh, take much of the cortisone, but he said um, because of the cartilage, because of the arthritis, and because of what he said, it looked like tendon stress. Um, you're going to feel the effect of this, and he was right.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better anyway.
And home kind of things. Yesterday, carried, thankfully, piece by piece, 150-pound headboard and frame up to my master bedroom with the help of my son. I'm not gonna lie. Brought down the old frame, the old box spring, and set everything up in the bedroom. And then 3 days before that, took up a boxed mattress, took it upstairs. That thing was solid, compact, heavy. Uh, so it's not like I wasn't sitting around doing nothing, just wallowing in self pity and pain. I still had to do fatherly, husbandly duties. So I didn't think any of that stuff helped. He told me no. Movement and exercise is the exact thing you need to feel better. Oh, so I was doing everything wrong. Thanks, Doc. Oh, and just a really quick shout out. He doesn't listen to this. I don't care. I love him anyway. Named Tracy Holtz, the high tech redneck. He did a podcast with me back in the days called Pod Brewers. Cheers. Love you, Tracy. And he told me, he said, look, they don't prescribe it much in America, but what you really need to do is take 2 acetaminophen, aka Tylenol, in conjunction at the very same time with 2 ibuprofen, aka Motrin, or whatever you want to call it. And he said, weirdly enough, we know about these substances and how they work, but nobody can understand when you take both of them at the exact same time, 2 pills of one, 2 pills of the other, you literally can get up to 6 times the pain relieving mechanic out of it. And Tracy Holtz told me the same thing like 6 weeks ago. So I'm embarrassed I didn't listen to him earlier.
Well, I told you a long time ago there should be a show on here called Beer Nuts.
I'm not going to argue because let me tell you something. Pod Brewers was maybe the most entertaining time I've ever had. We're going on a tangent. Sorry, guys. There was basically 2 different shows in one, and this is what I liked about it. One week, Tracy and me would record a show. The next week, 2 awesome guys. One named Spork Saber, which was a great name, and the other one was Buyer Brown, who's from Pittsburgh. Love you, Buyer. Um, they would get on, and Spork was the expert. Buyer was the enthusiast. Tracy was the expert. I was the enthusiast, and we would literally 1 week. I would buy something, bring it home. Tracy would buy something, bring it home, and we would go over what it was, what we thought about it, and we would then go over some bit of historical facts or some sort of information about the brewing process that people might not have known. Tracy many times brewed his own beer. Spork Saver many times brewed his own beer. I enjoy drinking it, not making it.
I'm
And
in.
if I can find the old episodes of that, I'm going to ask them if I can republish them because it's timeless, classically timeless content.
That's the thing. I don't ever remember it.
Oh, it was about 10 to maybe 12 years ago. Yeah.
I feel like I was around at that point. I don't know. I guess I missed it.
It was around the time of Linux Basics. So, and I'll say we didn't do a great job of republishizing things because we felt like selfish, like this is really like we shouldn't do that. But now we're past that and we don't care. Like, for instance, if you would like to know all of the content that I consume, for instance is in the month of June, it only has 30 days. I listen to 28 days worth and 20 hours of audio in that month in podcast. If you would like to know the podcast I listen to, I'm going through them one at a time in the new podcast, The Revolving Door. I'm literally about 90 episodes in because it's so easy to sit down and record 5 or 10 at a time because it's literally less than 5 or 10 minutes to record that amount of content. Um, the average podcast is less than 2 minutes long. So I just get in, I mention the podcast, I mention the stats, I mention the description. I try to mention if it's explicit, I try to mention if I skip the beginning or end of it, and then I move on to the next episode kind of thing. It's a hell of a lot of fun, I'll say that. Um, Stuff like Linux Reality is also timeless.
How difficult would it be to just jam a bunch of those together? You know, have like 60 of them and make a 60-minute podcast.
Well, I still have all the source files. Not hard at all. Not hard at all. I should be able to take the intro, slam 60 of them in, and then process it. Maybe 15 minutes per episode.
That's I was wondering if it makes sense just to do, once a month, at the beginning of the month, do a smash session of the last month.
That makes a lot of sense. I'll say this: half the people say podcast are too long. The other half the people say podcasts are too short. Kind of like half the people say we underreacted to COVID-19, and the other half people say we overreacted. Guess what? You're all wrong. Okay. Joe Rogan does 3-hour podcast and he just got paid bank.
Lots of money.
Yeah. So, you know. So I'll say this. On the Android front, I really don't have a lot of my own personal stuff. The Huawei I had to replace the tempered glass screen protector, but it's still running in air quotes fine. In July 2020, it's definitely a low power device. Um, I didn't buy the Pine Tab or the Pine phone. They're both over $100. So no, none of those portable devices. The closest thing I have to a portable like mobile device I got was a LilyGo T-Watch 2020. It's basically a ESP based touchscreen programmable watch. If there was a calculator watch in air quotes in 2020, this is it. It's only what nerds get. But except
I
for
heard you
that,
talking about. I heard you talking about that. I'd be interested to hear more at some point.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's just interesting. I'm going to get with and tinker with. But as far as Android is concerned, hardware, I haven't wanted anything. I haven't needed anything. So I haven't gotten anything. There has been more than a couple little things, I'll say, in the news cycle that popped up about Android hardware. But do you have anything new there, Josh?
I do actually. I got my first smartwatch, I guess you would call it. It's a Fossil Gen 5 Carlisle, I believe is what it's called. So it is sporting Wear OS, and it's the first, like I said, it's the first one that I've ever owned. I've had it for 4 or 5 days now, I think. I'm sort of up in the air still about it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's I mainly wanted it to be able to listen to podcast while going out and running without taking my phone, and for it to also be able to track runs and things like that. Because I mean, obviously you can see from my physique that I'm an avid runner.
I'm not going to comment on that. Well, here's the question. What's like the feel? You know, if this was Pod Brewers and you were talking about a alcoholic beverage, I would say, how's the mouth feel? But since it's a watch, how's the look and feel? How's the fit and finish of it?
It's a bit heavier than I expected, but I'm probably a bit weaker than I expected as well. The polish, it's actually good. It's got 3 buttons. It looks like a regular watch. Has what would be the winder, I guess, of a watch, and that'll scroll the menu up and down, and it's quite fast. Um, it has locked up a little bit trying to use the podcast app that I've been using. So I think some of it might be user error. There's 2 buttons that I don't even know what they do yet. But overall, it's pretty polished. It looks pretty good, I suppose, for a watch. As far as like, it's not too big in diameter, but it is a bit heavy.
Gotcha, gotcha. I love the idea, and I'll just put it like this: I love the idea of a smartwatch. That doesn't mean it's good or it's going to work. I love the idea of government taking care of people, but you know they don't do a good job at that either. And I'll say, to me, a smartwatch is one of the most personable choices you can make, because you also want to feel it, be comfortable wearing it, and have other people seeing you wear it and ask, you know, about it, maybe, kind of thing. So you want to have confidence in it. It's one of those weird um human relation kind of things. What I really hope is it's consistent in its sensor measurement readings, which some of the watches in the past don't do a good job. Fossil has been known to do a better job in consistency in sensor readings. And I really hope the battery life works out, because I do love the idea of the twisty knob as being a interface into it. It should make scrolling like ridiculously intuitive.
It is the battery life. I've sort of gone through different settings to try to see how long it would last. If I'm not actually using it for much, putting in airplane mode basically and not having the screen on all day, and then you just push the button to see the time or whatnot, then it lasted all day yesterday. But the first day I got it, I went out for a run that was probably 6 hours. No. Okay, it was 40 minutes, and that pretty much killed it using GPS and the Bluetooth. So that took it down probably 60-70%.
See, I mean, here's the thing. The one thing I'm okay with if I was running would be to turn off wireless connectivity to a network. Because dare I say, like when mobile phones first were coming out, I remember my dad explicitly saying, "Over my dead body, I'll have one of those things." Because his logic was, when I go fishing, I want to go fishing. The part of the reason I'm doing it is to get the hell away from all you people. Um, I have no problem saying, when you're doing exercises, part of your goal should be to get away, clear your mind, not be distracted, not be thing. Unfortunately, if there's a medical emergency in your family, you're not going to know about it until you're done your running, kind of thing. But that would be the one thing I'm okay with. I would definitely want GPS and those kinds of things enabled, though, when I'm doing a run, because I would like to track it, trail it, map it, kind of thing. So I'll say mixed feelings. Fossil is definitely quality, though. I do know that they're not, like the Rolex, but they're not like cheap garbagey stuff.
It is. It seems like it's pretty high quality build for sure. And as far as I mean, I'm like you, but not quite insane as far as listening to podcasts goes. And so on a run, I want to be listening to a podcast and with the GPS. So it doesn't have LTE or anything like that built into it. So I'm not getting messages or phone calls. You know, it's basically just that. It's basically just tracking the run and
Right.
playing a podcast. And it's not like I get messages or phone calls anyway, though. So because basically I have no friends.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that too easy. But now the other like Android based question I want to ask you is now my logic is I see articles, I see things that make me believe it's possibly true, is what I'm going to say. And that is when I'm outside doing exercises, I keep thinking I would not want a headphone that like earbuds that literally go in my ear because it's going to be harder to hear things around me. This is where I keep hearing and seeing tangential articles about the bone conducting type headphones, to where you can hear the whatever's coming through the player just fine, but you can also hear your surroundings as well. Have you looked at that at all? Do you care about that at all?
I have not. It sounds very, very expensive.
I know.
If you have links, shoot me some links. I've got these Bluetooth wire blah blah blah, and it is quite annoying. I don't mind having the anything in my ear. I'm not too bothered by, I'm running on trails generally, and there are cougars and bears in around here, but I'm not worried about them being on these trails. And so it's just a matter of other people,
Right.
running into other people or people running into me.
Right. Yeah, because those animals don't want you as much as you don't want them around you.
No, no, animals are just like people. They just don't want to
Yeah,
be around me.
exactly. I will say there's been two versions of them I've seen. One of them is the bone conducting. The other one is where there's literally a headphone, but there's literally a hole right through the middle of the headphone. Um, the only kind of headphone news I got is I went back and I bought one of my old favorite wireless Bluetooth earbuds, and it's the QCY. Um, it's actually what I found out after the fact was this is a Show Me made headphone, which I did not realize that. The reason I went back with this one because it has a physical button on it. Um, yeah, QCY TC1, I believe is the actual model number. Uh, the difference is it has no top on its case. Well, now I have a 3D printer. I printed a top and it fits right on the case. Um, I like the idea of these being Bluetooth headphones because I don't have to plug them in every night. I put them in the charging case, and the charging case I only got to charge like once a week. If I do more exercising, I think I have to look at some sort of active, better staying attached to my head headphones with some sort of maybe letting me hear the outside a little bit quicker sooner. But you know, not right now. Soon, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think those would just pop out of your ears if you went running?
These, I believe, it isn't the running that's really would be the kicker. It's the fact that I am a Irish pale, pale. I mean, I'm in pale. When I went to OLF and I wore shorts, people asked me what disease I had. I was so pale. Okay. Um, that and combined with the amount of sweat coming out of my body, I'm almost positive that these things have no chance in hell of staying in my ear very long. So I would have to look for something else. Now, I will say there is actual hardware news that I actually found genuinely exciting. If the listener remembers, like 2 years ago, we were told that Show Me, spelled with an X in the beginning, Show Me was looking at making a quote unquote Android TV dongle. And it kind of came out like really late, really weak, really underpowered, fairly priced, but wasn't really a good like smash you in your mouth. This is a good experience kind of thing. Well, there's been multiple reports, multiple rumors that came out. Now it says on notebookcheck.net, which I will say I'm visiting that website a lot here lately. It says new Xiaomi Mi TV stick. So it's not like an official Google product, which I like better because I trust other companies to showcase what is on Google better than Google themselves. Just look at the pixels and maybe you'll understand why. Um, it says new Xiaomi Mi TV stick will ship next month in the US for under $50. Will do 4K HDR and Android TV dongle gains ECC certification too. The real question is this going to be able to do Stadia, and at what quality is it going to be able to do it? I will say the stats on the actual um, device did seem pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it said I want to say 8 gigs of RAM. I can't remember now.
8 gigs of RAM in that thing? Holy
No, well, I'll say this: it's not on this page. Maybe it was a rumor one I was looking at that said 8 gigs RAM. But here's the thing: if you go back to the archives of the 565 podcast, 300 episodes ago, I said Android is Java. Android loves RAM. Java insists on RAM because everything is virtualized. That's how it works. Period. Hard stop. Now we're finally starting to hear other podcasts admitting, and then I'm talking about these big, huge names, popular, central based, authoritative podcast. Oh, yeah, I did that. Who are starting to say there's reasons to have 8 gigs of RAMs. There's reasons to have 12 gigs of RAMs. Well, as far as Door to Door Geek's concerned, welcome to 2012. My name's Door to Door Geek. That's what I thought 8 years ago. So these kind of things need RAM. Thankfully, even all these microcomputers that are coming out and all these phones that are now coming out with 8 and 12 gigs of RAM, they're driving the price of everything down. That's how the capital market system works. The more something is made, the further down the price goes because everything becomes more efficient. So I really hope this thing has 6 gigs of RAM. If it has 6 gigs of RAM, I am going to be really happy. I'm pretty sure about how it's going to work. But I could have swore the one thing I read said it think it was going to have 8 gigs of RAM. Ah.
Well, speaking of 8 gigs of RAM and Stadia, this article here is about running Stadia on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay, I'm gonna say that's gonna have to be like the Steam running through a Raspberry Pi, maybe. Like you're gonna have to have another computer. Oh, if it actually runs natively using nothing more than Raspberry Pi, I ain't gonna lie, I'm pretty impressed.
I think that it might be running through Chrome. Is that a possibility?
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, you have to. Here's the thing: to run it on a desktop, you have to run it through Chrome. On most Raspberry Pi based distributions, even if it says Chrome, you're actually running Chromium because Chrome officially only builds for 64-bit. Now, there's new technology out there. One of them is called DOS 86, I believe it's called, which really does a good job of emulating 64-bit on ARM. So they may be using something like that. But that's
Yeah,
interesting because I can tell you, I've ran Stadia on a 3 to 4 year old i7 with 16 gigs of RAM, hardwired through the network, and half of the games I ran on Stadia ran like garbage. I was shocked at how bad they ran. Half the people told me the problem was I was using Linux. Okay, sure. The other half of the people said to get the best experience on all the games, you have to have a Chromecast Ultra. That kind of, I'll say, sounded believable. But I also don't have an AMD or an NVIDIA graphics card, which I do believe could have helped.
I think this is just using the browser.
Gotcha. And I will say I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I read it completely wrong, completely wrong, completely wrong. On gearbest.com, which don't go there. Never go to GearBest unless you're okay with spending money. Okay. GearBest has a pre-population listings, basically saying you can click subscribe to when it becomes available, then they'll notify you. And it says, show me Stick with Google Assistant official international version 4K HDR Netflix quad core 64-bit Android 9.0 Android 2 gigs of RAM, 8 gig ROM black. Okay. So it only has 2 gigs of RAM. Now, that's not the end of the world. That's not the end all be all. And the example I'm going to use is the original Motorola. Oh man, it was the original Motorola with the custom processor. So it was the first and almost only device where you could customize the OK Schmoogle thing to say anything you want.
Moto X.
You sure it was a Moto X?
Well, I know the Moto X had that. I have had a Moto X.
Well, I got the Moto X and the Moto X2 right here, but the one that I have that has that chip is upstairs.
The Moto X has that. It has you can change the OK Schmoogle, and you can customize gestures, I believe, as well, hand gestures.
Sorry, just doing a little typing here. Okay, well, here's what I'll say. The Motorola that I had that was able to completely customize what the keyword was on my Motorola device was so heavily optimized that when it came out, everyone like laughed at how weak the phone was. These are the people that really don't understand how computers work. It's all mystical magic as far as they're concerned. But that Motorola was so heavily optimized because it was, I believe, the very first device that was put out after Google bought Motorola, that it well performed. It outscored on all the benchmarks phones that were 50% more expensive. So hardware does matter to a point. Software optimization matters maybe a little bit more. So Xiaomi has been putting out tons of devices. Okay. In the last year, I'm pretty safe to say they put out as much, if not more, devices than even a company like Samsung. So it has a chance, I'll say, of running just fine with 2 gigs of RAM. And I'll say on an Android in a home theater TV experience, you really shouldn't be running multiple social media apps, a camera app, browser app, all these things like all at the same time, if you will. You know what I mean? You're going to basically sit down for a lean back experience and launch Netflix, Hulu, Kodi, Plex, YouTube, enter pirate stream of choice kind of thing. So I think it has a chance of running fine, even if it's $50, even if it's $40, even if it's $35. I am going to wait for reviewers to at least give me some kind of indication on how smooth does it run.
Yeah, $35. What you can't really go wrong there if it actually works.
I know, but I'm pretty sure I hate to say it, this is going to be like a $49.99 thing.
Well, according to that link you put in GearBest, I mean, here it's $35.31. But I just realized that that's under the shipping category. So, okay then.
Yeah. Now something not at all remotely Android related, and I wanted to bring this up because again, I've said this, and again, I'm 99% sure I'm right. I am the first podcast with even more than 200 downloads that has mentioned KaiOS, KAIOS, completely free Libra Linux-based phones that are really making a dent in the third. I'm sorry to say third world because that's really first world of me, but in other countries, especially in countries like India, they're selling lots and lots and lots of these things. Okay. KaiOS, one of the things I said when I first heard about this, the reason I can't go with this kind of thing yet is because I listen to a great number of podcasts. So A, I need an official podcast player, but B, I have to have variable speed playback. because on some podcasts I go upwards of 4.5 to 5x speed. So now it's real. It's called PODLP. And it's podcast for the next billion. Listen and subscribe using PodLP on KaiOS. So if you don't want to use an online based things, like I believe Google Podcast is technically an online thing, and there's more than a couple that are out there that are web based that are fine. I'm not going to pick anyone out and say it's good or bad. I'll just say they're all fine. None of them, in my humble opinion, are worth ditching my natively installed player. I got no problem saying that. Now, this doesn't have variable speed playback, but maybe me, the instant I saw this, heard this, and I heard about it on Podnews, is the name of the podcast, which is mildly scummy, but that's me. So now if you have a KaiOS based phone, you can actually have it podcast player on it. First thing I did when I heard it, I went to the website, I contacted him, I asked him what did he need? What does he want? What does he desire? And he basically said this is a side project for him. He's hoping it takes off. He's hoping it gets publicity. He said, as far as coding and stuff is concerned, he said, I need nothing in that realm that I'm aware of. He said, what I really need is I really need the word to get out, and I need people to download it, play with it, tell me what's right, tell me what's wrong. So if you were considering getting a KaiOS, KAIOS phone, mobile phone, a phone that quite honestly has much more of your own individual privacy in mind, then you might want to, check it out and check out Pod LP. I'm now at least considering maybe buying one of these as a secondary device because, to be honest, Josh, between me and you, this might be the perfect kind of small form factor thing you can shove in your pocket and go like for a jog kind of thing, because these devices are definitely physically smaller than most Android big screen phones are today.
Is it possible to root a Android phone with KaiOS? There's got to be a list somewhere of phones that you can port over.
Well, I'm not sure I know what you mean. I mean, you're not going to be able to connect a KaiOS phone to a Linux phone that I'm aware of and perform a root mechanism to get root on the Android device.
No, I mean to nuke and pave an Android device with KaiOS.
Oh, to become KaiOS. Honestly,
Yeah.
the last device I knew that was at all remotely capable of it was the Nexus 5. And it's only because basically no phone since then has had an open GPU blob in it. I'd want to say there are some Samsung devices that they say you can install it on, but they don't like vouch for its stability, is the way I'll put it. Needless to say, I'll do some research between now and then. And the main reason why I'm almost saying why bother is because I'm pretty sure you can buy a KaiOS phone, use it even in Wi-Fi mode only with GPS only for less than like 50 or $60.
And the Pod LP, you can listen to podcasts at speed?
I believe only at 1x.
Yeah.
I believe it's a web-based player, so you can only cache like one episode at a time locally. If I read it correctly, is what I'll say. Because basically everything in KaiOS is in air quotes, progressive web app, which I still believe is the future.
I do too. Believe that was one of my predictions at the beginning of the year.
I believe it was yours too. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a deal breaker for me though.
I know. Well, let's not get disappointed, or let's not feel depression over that. Let's quickly change the topic.
Well,
Another.
I'd like to keep it on this topic for just 1 second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure if it happened since our last episode, which was, what'd you say, 6 months ago, that Android or Android podcast Addicts was actually dropped from the Google Play Store again. it was at least several days, I believe. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, it was like the third time in the last 2 to 3 years that Google's automation machine, because you can't blame people when the algorithm does it, um, like temporarily blacklisted and banned them and took them down from the Google store, which I'll say for a small developer, that's literally like cutting the guy's wrist and then telling him, don't worry, the ambulance will be here soon enough. And then waiting like days to call the ambulance. It is not, it is very unhealthy for a small one person team to have that kind of effect to them.
Especially since the reason behind it was that the the player was playing podcast which went against the CDC as far as coronavirus goes.
Which
And
were the exact same podcast that the Google podcast player played.
that every single podcast player in the world played.
Yeah, I know. I honestly believe, let's start conspiracy theories. I honestly believe there are fans that are fanatical for other players that work inside Google. Um, for one reason or another, they podcast addict does not seem to get equal fair treatment compared to the other podcast players. And maybe it's because he gains too much attention. Maybe it's because he's not a multi-party team developing this who can actively have open conversations with Google Lights to set things straight before stuff goes boom. I don't know how the reason could be justified for these kind of things to really only happen to him that I'm aware of. Um, but it does. Thus, if you want to circumvent the beast called Google, you can simply go to Patreon slash .com and search for Podcast Addict and support him directly.
And I throw my support 100% behind him as well. Like I used it for many, many years now, and it's amazing that he's doing this by himself. And it seems every few days, at least once a week, I get a notification that there are updates and here's what is new. You know, it's not just fixing security issues like Microsoft. It's actual new functionality to the app.
Yeah, and I agree. But the kicker is every time I see him do a feature update, I look and I say, well, now it's feature complete. What else can he do? And then, a week or two later, he does something else that I didn't know I needed, kind of thing.
Yeah. Guillermo? Is that?
Thank you. I wasn't going to say his name.
I think that's what it is. If you're listening, you have an amazing app.
I'm pretty sure he's not listening because I tried to even like impress him, and I tried to literally like send him like tweets, which of course Twitter. I tried to send him messages on Patreon and Twitter showing him like how much podcasts I listen to thanks to his application. Nothing. Completely deadpan look. And it's Xavier Guamelli, something like that. And he just completely no-sold me. And I'm thinking to myself, how many people do you think download your player and listen to more than 24 hours podcast on the average 24 hours? I know I'm in the 1%. First world problems.
Okay, so let's instead of getting stressed out about this, let's move on, Dor.
Okay. To me, here's an example of silently progressive web apps like showing capabilities kind of thing. If you go to appsco.pe, I know appsico dot, I don't know, pervert extinguisher, I don't know, appsco.pe/topless is where I go. And these are basically all the, in air quotes, progressive web apps that this guy can basically find. And I'll just put it like this. The number of progressive web apps is growing leaps and bounds. There's insane numbers. And if people want to really understand what I mean by progressive web apps, if you've ever used Chrome and you tried to access a website and there was no network connected and you saw the dinosaur and the cactus and the stuff, Well, if you actually sit around and interact with your keyboard, it turns out that's a game. And it's literally called Dino Game. And that's like an example of a progressive web app where you don't have a network connection per se, and everything is encapsulated in one kind of thing. So all of these technically you could load on your phone and then drop all network connections, and the game should work exactly like it was if you were online. Everything from Minesweeper, Jigsaw Puzzle, Pinterest, Twitter Lite, Tinder, Google Santa Tracker. Um, Basically goes on and on and on. Definitely some snakes in there. Some tic tac toes. These are the kind of things I personally believe are just going to keep slowly, methodically gaining traction, kind of like, open source.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. I think yeah, you sent me this before. It's a good website. The .pe is Peru.
So shout out to our South American friends.
Yeah, there's not. I'm not sure I've come across very many .pe websites before.
The only thing that went through my mind was Public Enemy.
The police.
Yep.
Uh,
911. It's a joke. And you can load, I'll say this, there are plenty of non-game related applications from Flipboard, Hacker News, and it just, I'll say this, there's more here than you think. Of course, it's not remotely close to being the Android Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, but there's definitely a lot on here, and I'm definitely appreciative of it, because sometimes I don't want to load a full app. Just give me a web app to do this one thing, because I only need to do this one thing like once a month.
there was since we've last talked, there's been quite a bit of news about Signal, which for anyone that doesn't know is a end-to-end encrypted messaging app. So you can use it as your default SMS app, and then anyone else that is using Signal as their default SMS app, you'll be sending encrypted messages back and forth. But you can also do encrypted videos and things like that. So during the whole Black Lives Matter um, protest, is that PC door protest?
Well, yeah, protesting is healthy.
Protests, it's it's kind of come into more towards the forefront for people that want to be able to send messages encrypted and keep anonymity. And so one of the things that they've done was they've created blur tools for Signal to where you can blur out your face before sending pictures. I'm not sure if it works with video, but yeah, so they're kind of jumping on the whole anonymity in pictures. So I've used Signal for many years as my default SMS, and there's just been a few things lately that have kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That's cool. It's fine. I don't know why if you're protesting you need to, if you're legally protesting,
Well,
I'm not sure why you need to blur out your face.
well, I'll say in our countries, yes. In our countries, you're absolutely right. In countries like Hong Kong, I don't want to say I would be comfortable posting a picture of myself, even peaceably protesting.
No, I definitely understand that, but this is definitely geared towards the states, and it seems to be that it's more of a push towards the non-peaceful protesting. I'll
Well,
leave it.
I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I'll say try not to. My humble opinion is I try not to connect intent with inanimate objects. Um, Nuclear It's not good. It's not bad. It's nuclear. What people do with them is up to them. If you think they're actively pushing this towards places where me and you, I think, can both agree don't need it, well, then that's something very much going wrong in their marketing department. I'll say the way I try to describe Signal is it's a protocol that works anywhere and everywhere. That if you're using the same protocol, you're virtually guaranteed of complete privacy. The plus is it can communicate with outside protocols. So you can, in the Signal app, send text messages to people with normal phone numbers using normal text messages. Your side of the communication is still completely secure. The other side is completely insecure.
Yeah.
And I'll say Signal also creates stuff like Red Phone, where if you want to have a completely encrypted conference call with another person, like a phone call with one other person, Red Phone is the only way I know right now to do it. Period. They're both created by Moxie Marlin Spike, who I firmly believe in 20, 50, whatever years is going to be written about or YouTubed about, whatever, as being a the closest thing we have to a digital freedom fighter who literally tries to fight for the good of people and not for organizations, not for governments, not for companies, but just for what he perceives as being good for humanity.
And again, I think that I've used it for a long time and I will continue to use it. And it is, it seems to be the only encrypted messaging app that hasn't had any vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, even Telegraph and all of these other ones.
Yeah. I don't like Telegram. I don't like
Telegram, yeah.
virtually any of the other ones because when people say end to end encryption, it's like saying, well, I have a lock on my front door. Well, congratulations, but I hope you understand there's a lot more to being secure than just saying that one thing. Like in anything in this universe, you can't summarize anything with just a couple words. Everything is much more complicated than that, especially security. And I'll say a good example of security I had in the notes was it was like a pictograph of just how complicated that Android security can go. Oh man. No, permissions is what I call it. Android.
With your key analogy, your door lock, like it's you could have the most secure door lock, the strongest door, big steel door with the, like a vault to a bank, and it just has a key to open it. And guess what? If your neighbor has the key to it, it's not that secure.
Well, that and you leave every single window in your house wide open. So what's the point of having that kind of thing? Okay, here's a link. It's only going to be in the notes going to be called Android Privacy Web because that's the only way I could really identify this. And basically this is just one application's example of when they go into a deep dive on what security means to them. Um, and it just like goes on and on. Like the, for instance, is communications. You take a look, they classify 5 of them: Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Skype, Viber, and Hangouts. And then they literally go through every single security setting that these things ask for. And they basically go through like what intent can happen when you grant, for instance, WhatsApp permissions to your phone.
Wow, this is beautiful. What a great graph this is. It looks like an eyeball with the nerves coming out from the cornea.
Right. And this is the kind of thing that really no article written, even if it's 3,000 kind of words, you're not going to get it. You're not going to understand the actual impact of it. He's going to have to use way too many adverbs, into which people that are going to say, well, he's just over glorifying stuff. Seeing the infograph shows you everything that these things actually access. Um, it's insane. It's literally insane how many of these things access other parts of your system, which is why security is much more complicated than anybody even tries to pretend. That's why when we do an app on this show and I notice when it comes to permissions, it uses no permissions. that is guaranteed. I'm going to have this installed on my phone and be 100% comfortable with having it there, because once you open the doorway to one bit of privacy, it seems like it just gets worse with each next level of privacy. Like,
I think everyone,
Outlook.com, Outlook.com is never going to be installed on my phone. That's a perfect example.
yeah, well, Google's got the biggest piece of the pie, I think. Um, I think that everyone should look at this. This is a really really nice graph. It looks like the Linux family tree, but
Yeah.
in a round format.
Right. And I'll say, and this is another reason why I personally like progressive web apps. They need remarkably less permissions. Now, the yin and the yang means progressive web apps will never have as much functionality as natively installed apps. But you, as the consumer, have to decide what's more important: convenience or privacy. And then when you give up your privacy for convenience, I just hope you inform yourself a little bit on just how much privacy you are relinquishing, and don't think that's the final answer. This is not a Regis Philbin game show. You can always later go back and say, well, let me revisit that and let me see now if there's an alternative to giving up this much privacy for that much convenience, because the only constant is change. And like the perfect example is I come look at DuckDuckGo, and it needs like nothing, almost nothing access. Uh, Other full network access, well, surprise, phone media storage, it needs 2 bits of uh, information, and that's it. That to me is an example of thumbs up, good job, DuckDuckGo. And apparently they're making so much money. I've now driven and I've seen 2 DuckDuckGo billboards.
No, really?
Yeah, blew
Wow,
my mind. Completely blew my mind.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of privacy, I'm gonna bring an app here, Door,
Hmm.
and this is the Proton VPN, free VPN, secure and unlimited by Proton Technologies AG under tools. It's got 4.0 average reviews out of 8,106. And as far as permissions goes, it has view network connections, full network access, connect and disconnect from Wi-Fi, prevent device from sleeping, and run at startup,
That
which I would
sounds normal to
expect.
me.
Yeah, I would expect from a VPN. It has 1 million plus installs, version 2.3.12.0, requires Android 5.0 and up, and it's from Proton. And there is a free tier where you have access to, I believe it's 3 countries: Japan, United States, and one other one, maybe Netherlands even. And like you, I think it's nice to have access to a VPN. And I've tried many VPNs, and this is fast. It's free. Even the free ones are extremely fast. So if you're looking for a good VPN, I would highly recommend trying. The people don't know what Proton is. It's
Yeah.
a company out of Switzerland, and their whole mantra is security. Um, yeah, encryption. They started with Proton Mail, and now I don't know how long this has been around, but there's a VPN. And I think if if there is a company that I trust to do VPN right, I think it would probably be Proton.
Well, I'll say this: they have experience, and yeah, I always called the email client for this not Proton. I called it wrong for like a year. Pronto. I kept calling it Pronto Mail. But yeah, Proton. Okay. This is the example of a company that literally focuses on privacy first, security second. And what I mean by that is they're an example of a company that stores nothing. Even if they get demands from their government to turn over, in air quotes, all the information, they can literally turn over all the information. And the dirty secret is they log nothing. Okay. Now, if you're in the United States of America and say, well, I don't know if I trust this country to hold my, okay, you're an idiot. Okay. Every government is beholden to the country that it's in. Okay. Every single company is beholden to the country that they're in. Every company is completely beholden to the country that they're in. You really have faith that whatever country you're in, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, United States, Great Britain, that your government has your utmost privacy in mind. If you say the answer is yes, welcome to Idiotville. You're not alone. There's a lot of people like you. Every country has its own betterment in mind, not the individual's personal security. Proton does everything in its power to not assist their government in violating your privacy. I never have recommended a free VPN. This is a VPN I'm comfortable with saying, check it out. But after using it for a month or two, give them some money, because this is not free. This is not free for them at all. They do good work is the way that I'll put it. The other way I'll put it is they're doing God's work, because look around, he's not doing it. So somebody else has to do it. Proton Mail is doing it. Them, private internet access. There's like 2 or 3 more that I trust when it comes to VPN. And these guys, they not only mean well, but they are able to follow through. And like, the old 80s movie, swing bada bada, swing bada bada. They did swing and they made a home run with basically everything that they do.
And I agree that this is maybe the only free VPN that I would even recommend to somebody.
Right. Well, and
even some paid ones, I'm not sure that I would recommend.
Yeah, most paid ones I wouldn't recommend. But along the lines of like Signal, they have an email system where if you email somebody else inside of the Proton email system, you are assured no government will ever be able to see that email. That's how the system works. You own the encryption keys. But if you email somebody outside the network, just like Signal, if you text message somebody outside of the Signal network, then, all bets are off. But from what I hear, it is a very functional, very useful, full featured email system.
I've had one since I think they came out. It was very, very soon after Proton Mail launched. I've had an email. I haven't used it as much as I probably should. I know Ivor has got on board with it. But the thing that they do is it's not just I'm going to go to Gmail, put in your password, and here are all your emails. You go in, you put your password to get into your email, and then you need to put in another password to open up your email vault, I guess would be a way to put it. So it's not it's the whole Venn diagram of convenience and security. And it is it's more annoying to have to put in another password. I've put in your first password, but that's guess what? Another layer of security.
Right. Well, between me and you, don't want to say this out loud, I haven't given them a dime. Haven't given them no money yet, because like Patreon, I subscribe to 150 podcasts. I can't give them all money. I'd be Poe. My kids be eating crackers. You know what I mean? I can't do that. So I haven't given them any money yet. Now, the day they implement Squirrel, secure, quick, reliable login from Steve Gibson, which he completely open sourced, by the way. He basically gave all the code away. And as soon as Proton implements Squirrel login, what Squirrel login is, long, very, very, very long story short, the server where you connect to via Squirrel can get hacked and have every single file that's ever been on its system copied and taken off and completely decrypted and completely analyzed. And with the Squirrel ecosystem, whoever gets that data will have no useful data and not be able to replicate any of your things to log in any place else. That's how secure Squirrel is. But it's as easy as your normal, common, everyday password manager system. You get prompted with a login. Squirrel on your Android device, on your Chrome browser, Firefox browser, Brave browser, Vivaldi browser, Edge browser, IE browser, whatever, interacts with the login session and, in air quotes, logs in for you after you log in to the Squirrel system using your master password. But there's no username, email address, and password. That's not how Squirrel works. If you want to know more, listen to about 6 hours of Steve Gibson's podcast, Understand. Okay. So once they implement that kind of system into their ecosystem, I will then start to give them money because that means they're being proactive. That means they're taking it to that next level because I want passwords to die almost as much as I want every politician in the United States over the age of like 70 to die.
I just thought of this is Squirrel. It's almost like SSH for everything, or like like it's a password or a key. It's a key pair.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? But in order for somebody to implement it, they need to have your public key, and then you have your private key.
Well, yes and no. Okay. What happens is when you go to log in to a squirrel based website, part of the authentication is their essentially their SSL cert, but it's their URL that only they can vouch for via. That's how TCP works, not UDP. That's how TCP works, where the actual routing comes into play. That is like part of the equation. They pass it down to you. Then with you get the public key. You with your private key encode it, send it back up. So the only thing that goes back up is encrypted data that only you can create because only you have the private key back to that public key created by their URL domain name. It says cert. So it's basically impossible to spoof.
That's the same way that an SSH key pair works, is it not? And so
Well,
it,
yes, no. I'll say if I log into your website via SSH using KeyPair, but then I'm DNS spoofed to another person's domain and they give me the impression they're the same URL, the SSH session will still go through.
as long as they have the public key, right? Right.
Well, as long as I believe they have the public key, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That was probably way too nerdy for just about
I
everyone.
know. And Batchild just walked in and said, "What the hell did I just walk into? I'm sorry."
Yeah. 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 I apologize for that. And yeah, just a shout out to the chat room on YouTube. You're welcome, Mama Bear. I'm not sure who that is. Maybe it's my mom because she says thank you, Josh. So, hey, mom, if that's
Right.
you.
And I'll say, Batchild, no, no, thank you, sir. If you at all are interested in video gaming news, I always say listen to Lennox Gamecast Weekly, partially because I love Ven's voice. But in reality, if you want to have good general game content, you really need to check out Dual Screens. It used to be called Nintendo Dual Screens Podcast. Now it's Dual Screens Podcast. They literally cover everything um, like they're getting some sort of physical reward out of it is the way I'll put it. They cover all the news, all the rumors, all the games. I hate interview podcasts. I really do. Honestly, I kind of enjoy their interview podcast. Well, they're like 3 episodes a week. It's hard to beat Dual Screens podcast. And if you want to hear my personal review of Dual Screens podcast, again, The Revolving Door, I covered that about 20 days ago, I'll say.
All right. Think since we've been gone for so long, I think maybe we should go through a couple emails here.
Oh, yes. Okay. We have at least 2 that I know of. Which one would you like to look at first?
I'm going to look from Pete B. And so his email was from the 12th of May. Sorry,
Yep.
Pete. It's been a while.
I was a full year younger then.
Happy birthday, Door.
Thanks, sir.
And his email just starts, "Hi guys. A few weeks ago, Twitter disabled SMS notifications on Twitter messages. I really like this feature because it let me receive text messages containing the specific tweets of people I care about. The Twitter app itself still lets me know that these specific people tweeted something, but then I have to scroll through or search my feed to find out what they said. I know probably all of you aren't big fans of Twitter, but do you know if there's a third party Twitter app or some other workaround that would let me receive text messages of specific users' tweets? Here's an article that talks about the change. And then he links to a Verge article. And then thanks for the help, Pete Barini, I hope. Thanks for the email, Pete. And I know that Ivor did message back to Pete, but do you have anything?
Okay, well, let's first. Okay, he actually almost hit the nail on the head. He came so close. Ivor, I love you. I'll give him 80% credit for answering this right. Okay, so the real question is there an app to do this, but is there a service that can do this? And the answer is yes. Okay, I'm gonna give you three answers. These three things independently do almost the same thing, but you can customize them to your will. Okay, first, the paid solution, Zapier. Zapier is a web automation platform. You log into Zapier, you pay them pennies a day, maybe like 8 cents a day, and then you can create basically algorithms. You can say, okay, now when this trigger happens, when I see a brand new tweet, Zapier, from this person, send me an SMS to this telephone number. Bang, you click it, you're done. It works. Second solution, if this, then that. They don't have a paid tier, only a free tier kind of thing. Almost as much functionality, but for this, exactly the same. You log in and you say, if this, then that. If this tweet happens from this person, then send me an SMS text message. Third solution, because I'm a nerd. Hi, my name's Tortor Geek. I'm a Weird Al fan. Hugin, Huginn, Huginn, Huggin, I guess. This is basically a self-hostable version of if this then that, where you have to know some Python. And if you're okay with knowing some Python, you can create a web scraper that can access Twitter and say when there's a new posting from this Twitter account, you can then send your own custom email or SMS message to this phone number. Dirty secret is every phone number actually has an email account connected to it. Example, United States of America, Verizon. Phone number at vtex.com will send an SMS message to a Verizon phone. Hi, again, this is Door Geek. I'm a nerd. So if you want to own the complete stack from the ground up and you don't have to worry about Zapier going away and you don't have to worry about if this, then that, deprecating functions and features, Hugin, Huginn, is the choice that can basically give you complete control. But then you have to admit you're now an administrator, not just a user.
I don't know how many steps that this would take. I would imagine you could probably do it in one on Zapier because there's actually a free tier for Zapier as well. You're only allowed a certain amount of zaps, they call them, and there's only one step per zap. But I've used Zapier quite a bit, and it's a pretty powerful tool. It's a pain in the butt sometimes, but it's amazing the type of things that you can integrate with each other with it.
Yeah, I mean, and the real dirty secret is, again, hi, I'm a nerd. There used to be a service called Yahoo Pipes, which the first time I experienced it made parts of my body tingle, how powerful this system was. But because Yahoo maybe is about as incompetent as some of the governments, they shut that system down. It was maybe the most functional, flexible, internet based, automatable service thing I've ever seen in my life. But now, thanks to the internet and thanks to Raspberry Pis and thanks to nerds, we have self hostable solutions that we can take advantage of. And Hugin, Huggin, whatever, is just an example of one of them that, in my personal opinion, works pretty well.
I think it's hug in. Like you go to this place, you get a room. Maybe it's medieval times, and you go to the inn, and then you just hug. It's just a
Well,
hug.
then you're going to probably die from gonorrhea. I digress. Here's the description of it on the website. Huggin is a system for building agents that perform automated tasks for you online. They can read the web, watch events, and take actions on your behalf. Huggins agents consume, create and consume events, propagating them along directed graph. Think of it as a hackable version of if this, then that, or Zapier on your own server. You always know who has your data. You do. So this is the kind of thing you can literally put on a Raspberry Pi, put on an old laptop, an old desktop, or even host in like a droplet on Digital Ocean. And choice is good.
Yeah, this is great. This is. I wish I had more time, Dor.
I know.
This would be fun. That'd be
Yeah,
really
I
fun.
mean, it shouldn't drive you crazy, but it should be fun.
And I mean, the good part about it is that the I mean, it's on GitHub, and the last commit was 15 minutes ago. So
It was on GitHub, which makes me gag a little bit every time I say
yeah,
GitHub.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I've actually moved to GitLab, but or trying to. But yeah, I mean, well, it's just nice that it's being developed. You know, like 15 minutes ago, you
Yeah. Oh,
can't
yeah,
beat
yeah,
that.
yeah. Now, just a quick tangent because we've already been going long. The Motorola Razr and the Samsung Galaxy Fold 2, both of them were the folding phones that everyone would said would change the world. Both of them, I think, disintegrated upon arrival. I'll say that. They both have new versions of them coming, they believe, in like 6 months. So, just a really quick question: is it still plausibly possible, even a skosh of a chance? Like, if in the scene of Dumb and Dumber, if you were the last man on Earth, so I have a chance. Okay,
Yeah, one
is
in a
there
million.
right? So, is there even a chance that these foldable phones could do some miraculous resurrection from the dead zombie like thing and become actually successful
What's the time frame here?
even in the next year? Let's go a whole year
I,
out.
I don't think this year. I think maybe next year. I did see one that was I think is it the Galaxy Fold? I can't remember what it was, but it was a tri-fold phone, and that got me tingling.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the idea of being able to carry something compact and having it expand to be more functional and more useful. Um, but it literally has to be incredibly durable and be able to take like a complete beating. Like I need to be able to really treat this horribly bad and have it still work. Um man, okay. So here's what I'll say. Again, not surprised. Notebook check posted another article that really got my eye. Something tingled. But I'm not sure what it was yet. It's called Tiny IO Gear GUD 3C 460 USB docking station turns your Android smartphone into a desktop. I said that slow because we all remember that fake tickle we got from Samsung Dex, which it promised it's going to revolutionize computing. It turned out to be incredibly dudful and forgotten about nearly completely by now, because we went towards a more open ecosystem and a more generic kind of thing. So Tiny IO Gear, who I've heard of before, they actually do make pretty decent hardware kind of thing, but it's going to have to be supported inside of your hardware itself. It's basically a small brick that connects to the bottom of your Android device via only USB C. It says it can do HDMI out up to 4K 60 frames a second. Also does have USB pass through, so it can charge at the same time as you're using all the other features to it. Uh, it also has a USB full size USB type connector and the ever elusive 3.5 headphone jack. Um, this to me is bordering on the line of damn sexy to where I can literally bring this into work, plug my phone up to a screen, and literally have a almost fully functional computer in my pocket. Now, because it's Android, there's certain limitations at play, but I have no problem also saying I can get by doing 90% of my computer task on a computer without a mouse. Hi, I'm Door to Door Geek. I'm that kind of nerd. So I have no problem in molding myself around the functionality that's presented to me. There's a reason why I can use a Linux all day because I don't need Windows to do anything. I don't need Mac to do anything. Um, I could do 90 something percent of everything I do on a daily basis on an Android device. Might take me a little bit longer here and there, but it's definitely something I'm going to entertain. The only caveat I'll say is if you take a look, you scroll down about halfway, this thing gets pretty damn hot, is what I'm going to say. Yeah, so
Yeah, it looks like it looks like an orange pie.
yeah, it wouldn't shock me if that's what's inside. I'll say that. It, and I believe you need to have what's called Thunderbolt 3 compatibility. I have never in my life looked at an Android device and see it say Thunderbolt 3 compatibility. So I don't know how you're going to know if this is compatible on your phone or not. I'll say this: if you, the listener, buy this and it doesn't work, let me know. I will definitely do more research. I'll find what phones, how we can figure out easily what phones support this or not, because it's only $40. Um, and if we can't find somebody to buy it from you in X amount of time, I will tell you right now, I will buy it off of you because I will have a device that this supports sooner or later.
If it works, great.
Well, they show it running on the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, but they say that the 3.5 headphone jack doesn't work, which I'll say that's not a like an end game for me, a stop game for me. So
But
I love the idea of it.
yeah, it's a good idea. Good idea. Um, so let's do another email because we've got one more email.
Okay.
Let's give Morton some love. I was hoping that you would. Do you have that email, Dor? I was hoping
Yep.
you'd. I was hoping that you could just read the from part of the email.
Oh, thank you very much, Josh. Morton, I love you.
Yeah, Morton. This is. I hope you have fun with this.
Morton, y'all, Johannesson, Zoli, Fedger,
I think that
maybe.
was. I think that was
Oh,
pretty
I'm
good.
sure I butchered it. He's from Copenhagen, which I will say, I really am the kind of guy I have no desire to really leave the country per se, but Copenhagen seems like a hell of a nice place with lots of nice people and good entertainment, is the way I'll put it.
So Morton, you want me to give it a go, Dor, just so that we're even
Well, it's up
here?
to you. He's in Discord, so as soon as he listens to this, I'm sure I'm going to get a ping where he's going to, in his own very nice European way, call me a mental invalid idiot.
Well, I would actually like to know how he pronounces it. But I'm going to go with Morten Jul Johansson Zolda Fijera. Okay, anyway, I'm sure I butchered it as well. His email is Dear AAA Team. And they said, like the A team, but with even more A. I like it. I was thinking about a solution for uploading to server and then deleting on the phone. I have Nextcloud set up to sync some things and Folder Sync Pro for others. Excellent tool, currently on sale. But what I want to do is have files from a folder automatically uploaded and then deleted. For instance, if I have been shooting large video files, then just transfer them to my sync, sorry, to my sync folder and forget about it. Since I have unlimited mobile data, it doesn't need to wait for when I hit my Wi-Fi. The point is that I would not want them taking up the space on my device, rather just sync. Any suggestions? All the best from Copenhagen, Morten Yule Johansen.
I'll be right back. One second.
Yeah, Bat Child. Thanks for coming out. Dora's much better riffing for the times that I have to leave, but sorry, we can say whatever we want about him now he's not here. Still interested to see who Mama Bear is.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So we're
Okay,
talking about Morton's email.
yeah, so I'll say, do you have any initial, dare I say, like feelings on how something like this could be addressed?
I think that the Nextcloud thing is good. I can't remember exactly. I thought there was a setting for uploading directly to Nextcloud and then deleting, but I know that there was an automatic upload to Nextcloud for pictures and videos, and so, but I can't remember if there's an automatic delete function involved with that as well.
Well, and I'll say that to me is that you just hit the most critical part at the fulcrum, if you will, because that's the most difficult thing to answer. Is not syncing isn't difficult. Syncing is rudimentary. It's something that people have figured out for years, but you want to delete. And once you say you want something else connected to the syncing function on anything, I just start to think rsync. Um, rsync is one of those quiet tools that runs in the background like a good citizen of a country, and then they don't ask for nothing. They just want their family to be happy and want everyone else to be happy. But secretly, it's actually the back end of a crap ton of backup utilities, synchronization utilities, and tools on all operating systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux. They all use rsync. Okay. It's like Steve Gibson says, why recreate security encryption when it's already figured out? Okay. Why recreate how to do copying and backupping and cloning in complex fashions when rsync already exists? Now, with that said, um, the good news is Android is a shell on top of Linux. Android is not Android. Okay. Like back in Windows 95, yes, you were running Windows 95, but secretly you were actually running DOS. And then the wrapper on top of it was Windows. Okay. So the application I'm going to give is basically called rsync wrapper, rsync wrapper. The advantage to this application, I'll say, is if you know and understand rsync at all, okay, you can load an application. I do believe it's Windows, Mac, and Linux called GRSync, GRSYNC. And it's a good platform to prototype, to develop, to customize rsync routines because it will let you simulate your commands before actually doing it, so you can actually see what's going to happen before it happens. And then you copy the code out, and then you can put it in this tool called rsync wrapper. Um, with rsync, you can say, keep these two folders completely synchronized. If I delete from A, delete from B. Or you can say, keep B completely synchronized with A, but if something gets deleted from A, don't delete it from B. Or you can say, only show me files that got deleted from A, then only delete them from B. The choices are never ending when it comes to rsync. Rsync wrapper is the only tool I've ever used on Android to do this more complicated synchronization tool. I will say the only problem comes is it's going to want to connect via something like SSH to do its task. So you're always going to have access to that other server. SSH, number one rule. If you install on any device, first thing you do is you go into the config file and you change the default port 2222, anything but 22. The default is 22. And then once you do that, you can route it through your router. Now we're getting more advanced. And then you can easily use this tool to keep things synchronized. And it will let you choose whether you want to repeat this task hourly, daily, weekly, or never just run it once. This is the kind of thing you really don't want running every second. If you're copying pictures over, my logic is you can say every hour should be fine. Um, and then basically you say you can have another task running that says after every hour and like a half or whatever, delete all these everything in these folders.
Does Tasker do things like that? Can you set up Tasker to? I know you're in the same boat as I am with Tasker. I think. Yeah, it's great. What is it?
Well, I'm 99% sure Tasker can do it, but I'm also 99% sure Tasker would have to rely on having another tool to run some components of it. Because Tasker is more orchestration. So you'll either have to have the base commands installed on your Android device or be able to access applications and say, okay, now run this application that does the task. Now run this application that does the delete.
Well, that's
Um,
what I'm talking about, though, is being able to orchestrate what you were just talking about with rsync wrapper and then being able to delete and using Tasker as almost a Kubernetes type of orchestration.
See, that's the thing. I'm not positive you need both. I would say first
Okay.
just start with the um, rsync wrapper, which you're gonna have to put your propeller hat on, no matter who you are, and you're gonna have to remind yourself of how these things work, even if you consider yourself advanced. The other app I'm gonna say because I don't want to say I'm not a fan of Tasker, but I'm really not a fan of Tasker. So another application I'm going to put in the reply to Morton is by Benjamin Lim. No in-app purchases, nothing like that. It's called Cron Scheduler. Benjamin Lim Productivity, 28 reviews, E for everyone. Updated September 9th, 2017. Why? Because why would you need to update something that accesses cron? This is like basic. 5,000 installs, permissions it is going to need to run it at startup, and that's it. Um, cron is like saying in Windows task scheduler. Only the graphical interface isn't really completely there. Like for instance, if you want something to run every, I think it is 4 hours, you have to put in the cron scheduler asterisk space or tab. It accepts both. The number 4, space or tab asterisk, space or tab asterisk, space or tab asterisk, space or tab, RM space dash RF space slash SD card slash download slash star, which will every 4 hours delete everything in your download folder. With great power comes great responsibility. With great demands comes great nerdism.
And cron is as far as I mean, Linux goes. It's a you can't live without it as a tool, really.
Well, if you don't know what it is on Linux, there is an insane gap in your knowledge portfolio, is what I'll say, because it is so powerful.
Yeah, this Google cron job.
Yeah,
Spell like cron job.
people have gotten jobs and made careers off of just knowing cron. And it's free. I like free. You like free?
Free as in beer, or free as in
Is there a
freedom.
bad free?
Freon, I guess. If that's
Well, it was good for comfortability, it just wasn't good for anything else. Hmm. Super quick tangential hardware news. OnePlus is returning to their roots of affordable hardware with the goal of not maximizing profits. They're coming out with what they say is the OnePlus Nord, which I will say I've heard multiple rumors about the price. Some people say below 500. Some people say closer to 300. Um, I doubt it's going to be close to $300. I have no problem saying that. But it's going to be the OnePlus Nord, where the goal is to maximize functionality, maximize quality hardware while keeping the price as low as possible. Um, this is I don't want to say this is what they needed to do because they've been doing fine. They don't have to listen to me. Okay. But this will help re-energize the people who did buy the One Plus One or the One Plus Two or the One Plus Three to being back on the bandwagon of being One Plus fans. Because let me tell you something, the One Plus 7T, I now know 3 people that buy it. It is a awesome functioning phone, feels great in the hand, works butter smooth. I have no problem saying runs faster, smoother, slicker, quicker than any Pixel device I've ever seen.
how's the
It's
mouth
just,
feel?
um, I personally haven't stuck in other people's phones in my mouth, but it's just a bit pricey for me. You know, I'm a government employee. I ain't got money to throw around. So when the OnePlus Z is what they used to call it, now they know it's called the OnePlus Nord comes out. I'm literally encouraging more than a couple people who are looking for phones right now. Wait at least 3 or 4 weeks, see if this thing gets launched, see how much it costs, see where it's going to be available and in what markets. Because I'm 99% sure it's going to be completely compatible with AT&T and T-Mobile. Um, and their last one was compatible with Verizon, so there's a good chance this should be able to run on a network by you.
What I'm seeing is July 21st, so
Yeah.
could be good. And what I don't understand, or I don't know the significance of the word Nord. I think I went most of my life without hearing the word Nord, and now over the last couple of years, I think there's been a lot of Nords.
I almost take it as like we are the knights that go neat. I don't understand it at all. Um, I do know it means something. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's Nord is Nordish, like North Scandinavia or Vikings and things like that, and it means north. Literally, it means north.
Huh.
But I guess south was taken.
Well, I mean, South has this like natural instinctual thing of being negative. Down bad, up good kind of thing. I'll say it's definitely a multicultural thing. It's a French, Romanian, Cantonese, Danish, German, Icelandic, Italian, Norwegian, and Swedish word for north.
I see you found Wikipedia as well.
I'm a fan of Wikipedia, and I did give them money this year too. I gave Wikipedia $50 this year, and I gave Mozilla $25 this year because I definitely use Wikipedia more. Um, so I guess maybe their real market is the EU. Maybe that's what we can take from it. I don't know.
Maybe it's the popularity of the show Vikings or some Vikings shows or something. What I wanted to mention before, which I didn't, was as far as Proton goes, and I'm curious about your opinion on this. As far as giving people money, you said Wikipedia, for instance, you donate to them, and it's sort of, and this goes down another rabbit hole with LibreOffice and things like that. But
Yeah.
open source software where you can just donate what you want. I think that a company like Proton should have that option of being able to just use the free service, but give them $10 a year or whatever you want to spend. I think that would be a good door for the business model.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to say is not a popular thing to say, but I believe it's truthful. And rarely is what's truthful is completely comfortable, and nor is what is completely truthful or probable the right way will be what everyone agrees with and likes. But as far as I'm concerned, the haves in this universe we call the universe, the haves should do everything in their power to help the have nots. I am perfectly okay with taking what is considered in the first world excess money and giving it towards somebody who is putting a service out there, a product out there, a thing out there that I find useful to any measure to help subsidize the people who literally do not have the free money. Um, if LibreOffice tomorrow said, if the main open competitor to Microsoft Office said, look, if you want to use these features, X, Y, or Z, or whatever, you have to pay X amount per whatever, I would probably do everything in my power to do that. Um, as long as I believe that their intent is to keep feature creeping to new greater things, but also they're doing everything in their power to help support the people that they know cannot afford that product. If they are able to do both of those things, if they're able to be the yin and the yang, if they're able to safely burn both sides of the candle, if they're able to navigate that trickery way called being profitable enough, but being charitable enough, then that's the kind of company that I have no problem supporting. Whether it's Proton VPN or whether it's Wikipedia. Wikipedia has no ads. And I think it has no ads thanks to people like me giving them money. Not that I'm special, I'm one of millions of people that do that. And if you don't go out of your way, because if you have enough money to once in a while stop and buy a Starbucks coffee, or you have enough money to just willy nilly stop and just buy something without thinking about it, then you have enough money to help support those who support you and that support other people. And I think we all need to once in a while just, you know, check our role and just look around and see who needs help.
I want to push back a little bit on I mean, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on most of that. The issue I have, or the pushback, would be as far as the business model of being completely open source and then switching to having some features being behind a paywall. That I don't agree with. I agree with the Red Hat model, or the a model of everything's free, you can pay for support. And if they're going to do that, then fantastic. I agree with that 100%. But this is my understanding is of the situation is this is how Nextcloud actually started, was that OwnCloud started doing this exact same business model of all of a sudden now some features are behind a paywall, and Nextcloud said, okay, or one of the founders of OwnCloud said, that's not what we signed up for. This is not why I started developing this app. is so that we can keep it from people. And so there is actually with Nextcloud, there is the business Nextcloud basically, which you're paying for support, but I don't think that there are any other features that you get by paying for the Nextcloud service that you wouldn't get in the open source free service. You're just getting that business support. And so that is the model that I'm comfortable with for open source software, not the okay, now you know what, you are not going to get these features. We're only going to give that to paid customers.
Yeah, this is an Android podcast, so sorry, people, but Linus Torvalds said it maybe most appropriately, which I'm going to butcher in my attempt at recreation of what he said, but the most healthy thing in a software ecosystem is the ability to fork. Um, it's the ultimate en garde. It's the ultimate coup de grace of if you're not doing the right thing, I will take everything that you call you and I will create my own independent stack of it. Um, it well, here's what I'll say about the Nextcloud, OwnCloud encounter, time lapse, fork thing. It wasn't just that they were charging money, but he thought they were going down an immoral and unethical road that he thought would just lead to end users being much less happy. It wasn't just the open core model where the core is open but the amenities cost money. It was more than that. And that's why I'm okay with LibreOffice doing whatever they do. Whatever they do, if it is not the right choice by public opinion, by majority of people, a fork will happen. And then 6, 8, 24 months from now, we're going to be using something else called OpenOffice 2, or, I don't know, something else, because the beauty of having near anarchy in software development is, one, nobody's going to die. Two, the cream really does rise to the crop. When you have something open with the ability to fork, you are assured what the majority of people believe is the right choice will win every single time. There's not an instance where a project was forked and what a majority of people didn't think was the right thing didn't win. Okay. It's happened time and time and time and time again, which is why I'm a huge fan of open licensing, where you put everything out there in for the world to look at, the world to examine, security professionals to audit, and other people to try to mimic and copy. Where if you do your right thing as a development community and you offer exemplary customer service with top-notch features, with actual support and an interface that just is butter smooth, there is no chance you will ever lose. Unfortunately, each one of those things mean never-ending nonstop work. And LibreOffice said just to continue the environment they have open, right now they're losing lots of money. So, which means people are not voluntarily giving them money. Um, every project will come to a vexing point in life to where if we're not charging money, how are we going to get money? Do we want to try to do drives, like the old telethon for the handicapped kids kind of thing?
Wikipedia. That's what
Or
Wikipedia
Wikipedia,
does.
do you want to put a
Yep.
banner at the top of your software when you open up LibreOffice Writer? Do you want to have a banner pop up once in a while saying, hey, maybe you could support us? We're poor. Do you like us? We like you. I love you. Can I have money? Or something. Because that's part of the thing. The advantage that subscription services have is you have to interact with them in order to get what you got. So it's very easy for them to slowly, methodically, and in a very open nature, update terms and agreements. With downloadable software like LibreOffice, it's not as easy. They have a difficult road ahead. And I'm very interested to see what choices they make. Um, live by the sword, die by the sword. In like 6 months, I might be saluting at their gravestone with a bugle, marching off taps. Or a year from now, I could say, man, they made some really good choices.
Well, yeah, it's I believe I mean maybe it'll be free office will be the next one, but LibreOffice was a fork of OpenOffice to begin with. And yeah, the ability to fork, as you had quoted Linus, is fantastic. And I would imagine that he probably said that right after he developed Git in the first place. It's a pretty good selling point.
Well, I mean, the dirty secret is LibreOffice was what was it again before LibreOffice? Star Office? No,
OpenOffice.
Open Office, which
Still,
went
there is still OpenOffice.
right. I know, but Open Office went Apache licensed
Yeah.
under Apache Foundation. Before that, it was Star Office. I can't remember what killed Star Office, and before that, it was something else. Um, Evolution by natural selection is not only a real thing, dramatic pause, for life forms like single cell microorganisms or for complex multicellular mitochondrial driven organisms, but also for source code, also for development platforms, also for IDEs, also for applications. To make it unabashedly rude to people, survival of the fittest, which was not an actual statement, nor is actually accurate, but it gets the gist across. The more open something is, the more ethical and moral they are, the more other people are going to support them, even if it costs money. Because everybody is perfectly content with spending a little bit of money if they get some convenience with it. And I can tell you right now, every time I use LibreOffice at work, I install it without my job's permission. But whenever I create a new document, I always create it in LibreOffice and then I save it as an open document format. And thankfully, all Microsoft ecosystems will open those documents up like it never had a problem, and no user even knows it's created in an open document format, and it just works. And I'll say every Android application I've ever tested and tried that supports LibreOffice supports those documents like it was made on them.
The advances are incredible over the last 5 years. Seems to be fairly exponential as far as open source and Linux, basically. So I think that this conversation is probably more suited for Linux for the rest of us, which is also a Podnutz podcast, along with Mini PC Show and several other shows that everyone should be checking out if you haven't already on the Podnutz network. That was my selling point, Dor.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out there, and like Podnutz Pro with Marvin, his passion is it's hard to compare with other podcasters because he's definitely on top of things. He does good work.
He does, and Jeff's show, yeah, and Matt, yeah. This is a great network, and someday we should all buy an island and go live together.
Well, as of right now, I still work for the government, so I can't afford it. Um, I will say what I've been doing now in practice is when I publish the podcast, I've been putting every single article, link, note that comes across my radar from the last show. Literally, with this show, there's 63 links. We didn't even talk about 20 of them. So I encourage you, if you are what you consider to be an addict, dare I say, of Android ecosystems, mobile technology, maybe even progressive web apps, just peruse the notes. If an article header or an article description tickles your fancy and you look at it and you say to yourself, why didn't these two idiots talk about this topic? This is fascinating. then you can send us an email at aaa@podnutz.com. You can send us a voicemail at 706podnut.com, or you can join us on platforms like Discord. Technically, we have a Facebook presence. I don't really log into it, but
It's a
technically
bot.
it's a Facebook presence. No. It's Bruce Patterson from Linux for the rest of us who manages that. We do have Twitter presence. If you ping me directly, I can respond. I'm not going to promise I will, but I definitely can respond. Um, or as always, you can just join us live. If you want to join us live, again on Twitter, Facebook, and Discord, we try to post links when we go live. We try to go live Thursdays at 9 p.m. Since I'm in insanely less amounts of pain. As long as that continues, there's no reason why we can't keep doing more stuff. We thank everyone for their downloads. Thank everyone for their supports. Now, since it's been nearly 2 hours since I hit record, and I was really only thinking about doing a 20-minute to 30-minute podcast. Do you have any parting words there, Josh?
Thanks everybody in the chat room. Ivor, we miss you. Come back soon. It's been great to be back here and chat with you, Dor, and be able to interact with people. And please keep the emails coming. Join the chat room. Dor says 9 o'clock, but that's wrong. It's actually 6 o'clock Western Pacific Standard Time. So it's not that late for everyone.
And that's the only time that matters.
It's the only relevant time zone, actually.
Right. So I'm going to leave these parting words. Take a look at the notes, and you can just search for RK3588. RK3588. It's number 32 in the notes. Okay. Rock chip hexacore processor in a TV box triples as 5G connectivity, Wi Fi connectivity, and a router plus home automation gateway. Technically, it's like a Kickstarter, it's a theory kind of thing, but an Android TV box with all those different types of connectivity, great failover possibility is what I'll say, including home automation possibilities make this an actual thing that really could come to play. It's on cnxsoftware.com. These are the kind of things that we didn't have time to talk about. So again, if you think we should have talked about them, just let us know. And until then, I want to thank everyone for their downloads, thank everyone for their supports, thank everyone for their communications, and thank everyone for being patient and not complaining that we haven't been able to do shows as frequently as Ivor would like, as Josh would like, and trust me when I say I would like to do. So with that, I love everybody. Really good to talk to you guys. Be safe and take it easy. Bang. And surprise, Christian came out. Christian's awesome. Captain Zero.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I have to make a new folder here, Dor. This is the didn't even get a chance to talk about all the different varieties of Debian that I've installed since we talked last.
Well, and like the good thing is Ivor thought he could come on next week. I purposely sent him all these links so he could also take a look and say, you guys are idiots. Why didn't you talk about this? This is awesome. Because there's too many.
I can't believe that is well. No, that's a stupid way to start a sentence. His brother didn't come out either.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Can't remember his brother's name. I just know when I see it, it's his brother.
Because it says Davies after it.
Yeah.
What is his brother's name?
Damn it. I knew you were going to ask that question.
We kind of hit 2 hours on the dot there. Wow.
Well, we did, but then it's going to be shrunk down because that's how it works. Truncate silence, baby. I love it. And again, I got to be right back.
Yeah, I got to be right back.
Small bladder. Really good to see you, Red. Oh, and I'll say, Christian, sorry I didn't send you an email. I honestly, I, there's only so much time in the day, and I did not get a chance to send that email to you. This is what I'll say: cortisone shot, no rotator cuff damage at all. Oh, man, I was so happy to hear that. Let me do this just in case you're not listening. Results, paste. Okay. Slight cartilage damage, which when he said slight, I think he was being nice. The shoulder is a 3-point joint. Okay. The point right here where the collarbone meets, the point in the back where the shoulder blade meets, and then a heavily rotator cuff top that it's never supposed to actually meet. There's supposed to be rotator cuff there, and then plenty of cartilage back down through here. Cartilage damage on both shoulders, on the top and bottom, not drastic, is what he said. And then he saw clear signs of arthritis on both tops of my shoulders, um, which he said he's never in his life seen arthritis up here on the top. I asked him if it could be in any way connected with calcium deposits. And he said, yes, typically arthritis is where there's calcium overgrowths. They're more susceptible to growing arthritis. I said, well, because from like the age of 5 to the age of 13, I literally drank like 3 gallons of milk because that lying SOB, Baltimore Oriole, Cal Ripken told me milk does the body good. So I have massive, literally quarter-sized calcium deposits on both my ankles. I have nickel-sized calcium deposits on both my knees, and I have like dime-sized calcium deposits on both of my hips. So he said I can't rule it out because, but so I don't know, but I definitely have arthritis here. And then again, sorry, long story short, when I was 15, maybe years old, a kid who was literally like 600 pounds, and I'm going to say his name out loud, even though I don't hate him at all. Rob Levry, I believe is his name. He was actually a really nice guy. I was a jerk. 600-pound guy got me in a full Nelson. Me being a 5'6" little runt, I did everything in my power to get out. I could not get out of the full Nelson, and it was starting to hurt. And there was a pool right next to where we were fighting with a chain link fence. So my genius brain said, there's no way this guy can support his own weight with his arms. So I'm going to drag him over to this fence and climb this fence to where his feet will come off the ground and he'll have to let go because his body can't take it. No way. Well, I got to the top of the fence, and on the chain link fence, points came out with sharpened edges, which I didn't know were there. So I got to the top of the fence and I reached up, and when I pulled up on the top of the fence, his feet came off the ground and the points of the fence literally went into my hands, both of them. I have little scars all over them. And he took the weight. He was able to take the weight. So I sat there for like 2 minutes. It felt like 3 minutes. He wouldn't let go. Finally, I just had to let go of the fence. We both fell. He finally let go. Then literally for 2 days, I had to like walk around with my hand on my chin, or in school like this, because anytime I let go of my chin and I didn't concentrate hard, my head would literally like fall down, and with I couldn't pick it back up without my hands. So when I told the doctor that, because he kept asking me, does your neck hurt? Does your neck hurt? Does your neck hurt? I said, it's hurt for 30 plus years, doc. He said, well, on the way out, get an x-ray. So he said, don't be shocked if you come back in 4 weeks. And it turns out the pain, the symptom of the pain in your shoulders was actually caused by your neck. So we'll have to see. But I know when he put that cortisone in me, seconds later, I felt 10 times better.
I had a similar, well, it wasn't similar, but it was, I can't remember if it was a track practice or if it was during PE but we were out on the field and I was carrying with, I think, 3 or 4 other people, a mat, like a high jump mat, just a big mat that you land on so you don't kill yourself. And this kid, his name was Jeff. I can't remember his last name, but he came and jumped on this mat. They were holding kind of on our heads, and just he was kind of a dick to begin with, and smash neck just goes crack. And that was, I mean, I've had many neck injuries, but that was like the first one that still to this day bothers me, of this kid just jumping on this heavy thing that we were carrying.
Yeah, man, the neck is not a fun thing to play with.
It's
It
not.
hurts.
From what I understand, your head's connected to it.
Yeah, kind of. Well, and I'll say, like, the kicker, what I told the doctor was, um, I was technically diagnosed in junior high with they said slight to moderate scoliosis. To which I was like, well, it's either slight or it's moderate. It can't be both. And of course, they didn't give me a direct answer. So yeah, you know. I'll say one thing that made me chuckle about the doctor was, um, he like was looking through my chart, and he was like looking at me through like the top of his glasses, and he said, "So, this says you're diabetic." I said, "Yep." He said, "Type 2." I said, "Yep." He said, "I don't see a medication here." I said, "Yep." He said, "So you stopped taking your medication?" I said, "Well, the doctor told me to stop taking it." He said, "Oh, why did the doctor tell you to stop taking it?" I said, "Well, because my A1C was constantly around 5.5." He said, "You had your A1C down to 5.5?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, then you're the unusual guy who actually once in a while listens to a doctor." I was like, "Well, I try to." He said, "Well, then good. I'm going to assume you're going to listen to me." Oh, okay. He said, "Number one, take the sling off. Never put the sling on again. If I tell you to put the sling on, you put it on. But until then, don't put it back on." Oh, okay. He said, "Number two, I'm going to give you like 6 pages of material. Look at it. Do the exercises. The exercises will help." And I said, "Well, can I be frank?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you have a YouTube video I can watch?" And he like, oh man, he was like, it was like I just like fondled his daughter publicly kind of thing. I said, "I've suffered from ADD, ADHD, like really bad. It's really hard for me to read." And he just again just scowled at me over his glasses. He says, "It comes with pictures." Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Okay. He said, "Because I'm going to have you back in 4 weeks, and if you're not feeling mostly better in 4 weeks, I'm going to tell you right now, it's your own damn fault." Okay. I mean, what else can I say except for okay? Okay. You say so. And then like 5 minutes later, he gave me the cortisone shot.
And he's your best friend.
Uh, well, I'll say it like this. There's good doctors, there's bad doctors. There's good dentists, there's bad dentists. There's good auto mechanics, there's bad auto mechanics. But what I consider good, somebody else could consider bad. I thought he was a very honest doctor, but going by Healthcare Triage, which is a YouTube series, which I'm going to talk about on the revolving door after I'm done talking about my podcast. I don't like the fact he was an old doctor, which makes me an ageist, because the older a doctor is, typically the more likely they're not doing continuing education, which means every year their knowledge becomes less accurate and valuable because there is a such thing called a half-life of knowledge. Best example I use, which everyone should be able to understand, is let's say your phone knowledge. Hypothetically, today, you know everything there is to know about phone. Okay. There's a half life of knowledge where every day that passes, that what you know becomes less valuable and subsequently becomes more inaccurate. Okay. That's an extremely half life, extremely quick half life. Medicine is definitely slower than that. But if you don't continuously educate yourself, no matter what you know, you will expire with the half life of knowledge. And most doctors don't. And my personal physician, my main guy, 3 times in the last 6 years, I begged him. And then I shot him links through what is now the online system we have. I've shot him links and I said, this is from the National Institute of Health. Please read this before our next scheduled appointment. Because it directly contradicted something that he said. For instance, was he wanted me to get on a lipid for blood pressure, cholesterol. He wanted me to get on a lipid for cholesterol. And I showed him how the National Institute of Health put out a study saying if you're diabetically prone, because of course they use very careful verbiage, if you're prone to diabetes, we saw a slight uptick in people becoming full-blown diabetics when they're on a lipid. And he kept asking me to be, can we put you on a lipid? I said, no, you can't. I'm not taking a lipid. And then after like 3 times, he said, well, why won't you take a lipid? I said, because I'm already pre-diabetic. And I said, if you give me a lipid, I guarantee you in 8 months, I'm going to be full-blown diabetic. This was like 5 years ago. So he didn't. He ended up stopping talking about it. And then it took me literally like 4 more years of completely incompetent behavior to become a diabetic. So, if I would have made better choices,
It's like politicians as well, as far as the continual learning thing. I mean, how do you have 80-year-old senators making laws about Facebook and, contemporary technologies?
Well, I'll just no, I don't want to get political, but I'll say it's just like sports athletes. Athletes are supposed to have what's called handlers. Celebrities are supposed to have handlers, and the handlers are somebody who's like stands next to you 24 hours a day. And when you're about to do something stupid, they put their hand in front of you like they're in a car hitting the brakes really hard and just, whoa, stop. If you really want this to be done, I can do it. You shouldn't do it. Politicians have handlers in the sense of politicians don't have the brain cells to make a single decision. They have handlers who advise them on what is the right thing to do in air quotes for their career. And I'll take that back. Not all politicians do. Most do. The ones who are more successful than not do. Because there's no way any of them have any clue on what an IP address is, on what SSL is, on what encryption even means.
It starts with PO Box.
Yeah.
My IP address is PO Box 595.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know nothing. And I really, in a nice way, tried to tell executives at my government job, I said, look, I understand you were in technology, but you were in technology when COBOL was new. That was 40 years ago, 50 years ago. You need to have a trusted advisor sit with you in meetings, not talk, not say anything in the meetings, but just private message you, direct message you on what they think, they feel, they believe about the technology that's being talked about. And then you can make the choice on whether or not you want to make that an issue, you want to talk about it, or you want to bring that up. Or after the meeting, you can have a summarization rundown of everything provided with links and all these kind of things, upholding the facts that the technology expert actually knows, the subject matter expert knows. And the two executives I told that to took it as an extreme insult. To which I said, now that just proves to me that you really don't understand technology. Because if you did, you would understand the Dunning Kruger effect that you actually know nothing, just like I know nothing. There's always more to know. They didn't like that very much. But like anything else, like I told their predecessors, you're going to be long gone. I'm going to still be here. I don't need you to like me. In fact, I don't care because I'm just here to do what's right by the taxpayer, not by your own political agenda. Because anytime someone uses the word agenda, trust me, they have an agenda.
Oh, speaking of agenda, I was on my voice was on No Agenda yesterday.
Well, if any podcast I've ever listened to has an agenda, I'm pretty sure it's the one called No Agenda. Kind of like the premium version of a car is never really the premium version. They take features away.
That's something we can discuss at a different time. Do you have a link to your Nextcloud? Is that up and running still?
It should be.
Ah, crap. I
Oh,
through all my iterations of
you're right, man.
operating systems, I don't have the.
And I keep
the
making
info.
like weird facial gestures because it's like I gotta stretch. Feels like I gotta stretch my stuff out, my
Fair
neck
enough,
and my
man. Do it. Yeah, I hear you. I'm always down
email
for that.
en route.
Okay. I'm gonna maybe do an intro too,
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yes, intro.
if you're
If
keen,
if you will.
if you will. You do the intro, I do the outro. All right, give it a whirl here. You thought we were gone. You thought we had pod faded. We are back and stronger than ever. This is episode 565 of Android App Addicts. Yay, nay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Tube of Eunice. I really upset my kids when I say that. By the way, I saw the best face mask ever.
Just a regular face without a mask?
No, it was the face mask, for the particulates and stuff. But it was a face mask that was all black, completely black, and then it had in white text, in big letters, space balls, in smaller letters, the mask.
The mask. Ah.
Oh God, I wanted that so bad. I told the wife, look, if I
Wow.
ever would pay for a face mask, that's the one I'm paying for right there.
That's fantastic. That is the best. That is the best.
Well, and I told her that, and then I said, but look, I say that, but it's not entirely true. The only reason I would pay that in 2020 is if I am guaranteed that Mel Brooks is going to get a cut of that money.
Right.
Because that's the whole reason he did that. Turns out the whole reason he did that in Spaceballs was because that was part of the deal, part of the arrangement, that he would get the actual money back from merchandise. To which the production company agreed, which is why you never saw any Spaceballs material back when the movie was launched, because nobody wanted to carry it because all the money went to Mel Brooks and not to, I think it was Universal Studio.
Og 8, right?
Yes, please. Okay, uploading to YouTube.
Spaceballs, the mask. That's great.
That was one of the most damn fan. I mean,
That's so good.
It's like so obvious. Well, of course you would say something like that.
So good.
But when I saw it, I was like, oh God, that's genius. And yeah, my doctor did, like, the main doctor did like stop and say, what kind of face mask you got on there? I said, oh, it's a 3D printed one. He said, oh yeah. I said, yeah, a couple buddies of mine printed 3D face shields. Other buddies of mine printed these like masks and literally distribute them to how did I put it? Like care institutions that were in need. He said, huh, it's pretty damn smart. I said, well, I didn't design the thing. I just, help print the thing kind of thing because I can't design nothing.
I've got issues here, Door. Logging in.
Okay, give me like 30 seconds, please. I really hate when my kids say please.
Please.
Just say please, you mental invalid.
Well, hopefully they got your wife's looks then.
You better have. Let me tell you something. One of them didn't. And I keep telling him, oh, and he finally believes me. I told him, I said, look, if you know a second language or if you know sign language, you are guaranteed to be 10 times more useful to an employer. Easily 10 times more useful. Okay, let me log in here.
Might be my, it might be.
No, that's okay, man.
No, it might be me though. It might be Pie Hole. I don't know why though.
Shouldn't be Pi-hole. I'm logging in now. I can reset it. The other kid, I keep trying to get him to understand charisma. There are many people in this world who don't have a lot of talent, and their whole career is based upon charisma, talking to people. I said, I don't know if you noticed, Danny, but 3 teachers wanted to have private talks to you because they love you and they're really afraid, when they're no longer able to talk to you this year. And they literally, when at least I connected with the hangout and I walked away and I came down just asking if everything's okay, I'm looking at the screen and they're crying because they're not going to be able to talk to you anymore. I said, that's because you have charisma. They love you. You say things and they listen to you. I said, so that's a talent. You need to learn to not abuse it. And trust me when I tell you this, if you use it for good, you'll get a job for the rest of your life doing whatever you want to do. Kind of thing. Because, yeah, I mean, this is like the 3rd year in a row where teachers ask, can I please talk to Danny just like one last time? Because it turns out they took other jobs. You know what I mean? Okay, give me a second here. Yeah, I forgot. I reblasted Nextcloud. So I literally have to add your account.
I can't even get there now though. I've got to.
Well, I'm able to access it via my phone and stuff.
Off network.
Yeah. Yeah. doorgeek.no-ip.org via HTTPS.
Yeah, I'm getting a refusal to connect.
Okay.
Oh.
Wow, man.
I was just waiting a little bit.
Okay. Josh D is the username.
Mm-hmm.
Adding you to the group. AAA.
I can't even get there though. So.
Well, I mean, worst case scenario, if you want to, you can just upload it to,
Yeah.
pick tool of choice, and then we can work on it later. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, I gotta get going. So
because it could be worse,
could be, eh? Could be worse,
Exactly. Okay, details.
I wrote down a couple of show titles. If you want them.
Okay.
Mildly scummy. And door to door geek is a nerd.
Mildly scummy is really nice. I like that. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
let me do
then at
this.
one point when you were talking about, I think it was the KaiOS phones, you said they were adorable, which
Hey,
I thought was pretty funny as well.
honestly, if you haven't looked at the web page, they
No, no,
look
no, not durable, but adorable. Like
adorable.
they can withstand door. They're adorable.
Yeah,
I like that as well. But mildly scummy, I think is probably the
mildly
way to go.
scummy.
Because without Ivor or myself in the chat room, we're not getting a lot of action as far as titles go.
Yeah, like that was one of the things that Eric insisted. He's like, well, why don't we let people supply images so we could have like custom artwork with every show. I said, Eric, we only get like 10 people coming out for a
Yeah.
show. You think they're going to actually like do work? No, that's not how this works.
That's annoying.
I said, and the worst thing for a podcast to do is to say, hey, we're going to let you guys do this, and then to not have anybody do it. We're too long for the YouTube comments. YouTube comments top out at 5,000 characters. We're at 6,500 characters.
Characters being what?
Actual like ASCII characters in the notes.
Oh, in the notes.
Yeah, could be worse. Could be worse.
Could be.
Website files, images, not images.
Do you still have a share on my Nextcloud?
On your Nextcloud, I believe. I thought I did.
Should.
Give me a couple seconds here.
You know what my biggest disappointment is for these shows?
Oh, okay. Wait, thank you for saying that last part.
Is that I try to talk so much trash about Ivor and I never get a response.
He is unbelievably like calm, cool, nothing bothers me kind of thing. Yeah, he's really good at that. I'm trying to log in right now to the Nextcloud, and I'm logged in. It worked. Yours worked, and I'll say Morton hosts his Nextcloud on an x86 computer. He has never had an issue upgrading his Nextcloud, as far as I know, forever. Which I can tell you, hosting on my mini computer, I've had a couple issues.
Yeah, I always have issues. I think it's broken. I don't feel comfortable using it as a primary backup, that's for sure at this point.
Well, I'm okay with using it as a primary backup as long as I don't upgrade it until I've done a full catalog backup, like immediately before I say do an upgrade.
I'm okay with it as my primary backup as long as it's backed up.
Yeah, exactly. Which you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. That's a a lot like belt and suspenders.
I think I killed it with I upgraded to 19. And you know how on Nextcloud Pi as at the top, the kind of nav bar thing, it has like the Nextcloud Pi that you can click the link. It's gone. So because when I upgraded it and it wasn't available through the Nextcloud Pi, so I think it just Nextcloud Pi just hasn't caught up to they don't have an update for Nextcloud 19.
Gotcha. Well, I know they're always, nice if I can put it, they're always more behind than I would care them to be. Which,
It's open source. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't know how many people they have to work on this.
I've never given them any money either. So
I never have either, but also I don't know how hard it is to do what they're doing. For all I know, it's like really difficult.
it seems like it would be. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's trivial.
Right. Yes.
And I can still log into it if I go to port
Right.
4443 or whatever it is.
Yeah. The NCP, which is just a couple letters away from the MCP from the Tron movie.
Oh,
Nextcloud Portal, I believe is what it's called.
but I don't think they're even up to 19 still. But the latest
No, they're
update
not.
says the cron job right to log only is their last commit 27 days ago.
Yeah, they're definitely behind.
But
'Cause,
that brings up the cron jobs.
yeah, because he's in Discord, Morton, and him and MRP talk about upgrades, and then I go look at it and I'm like, oh, that's not. I don't have that upgrade. That isn't even available for me yet. I feel like I'm missing out. Fear of missing out.
All right, I gotta get going, man.
All right, man. You be safe.
Yeah. You got those? You got my uploads?
Got him and already got him downloaded.
Cool. Out, brother.
All right, man. You be safe. Thank you.
My pleasure.
.2.150. Oh, I typed it wrong. I'll say I have now. Like one thing I tried to say to my doctor, and I know saying this, he like looked at me like I don't know how to put it, but like ignorant, all knowing. I don't want to tell him stuff that he knows already. But he said, well, how much pain are you in? I said, well, doc, I've had kidney stones. So I think I know what pain is. And that pain was a 10. This pain is easily an 8. And he looked at me a little bit skeptically. To which I don't know how to say it. To me, it felt bad. And then I admitted to him, I said, look, for all I know, this is, and I use words they know. I said, for all I know, this is completely psychosomatic. Because I do think that since I've been here and talked to you guys, I think I honestly do feel a little bit better. And then he said, very, as a matter of factly, all joints crack all the time. People just don't seem to notice it until they connect pain with it. And then once they connect pain with a crack or pop, they believe every time something cracks or pop, that's the reason for the pain. And it's not. And I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. And he like, well, yeah, whatever. And I said, it's like a cognitive bias. And he like, I saw his like head literally jerk around. He said, yes, somebody knows the definition of cognitive bias. I said, yeah, it's something that I personally reinforce because I want to believe there's some truthfulness to it. He said, yeah. So maybe just you believing the pop isn't the pain, that next time your stuff does pop, you will literally hurt less, even though nothing I did changed that. Nothing I physically did change that. Nothing you physically did change that, because pain is subjective. And he said it very slowly, like he wanted to make sure I understood. And I understand completely. Because there's no chemical test someone can give to you and see how much pain you're in. That's why when you go to the ER, they have the thing of like 1 to 10. Well, what's your pain? Because there's no way anybody can tell you that you're wrong. There's no measurement they can say, well, he has a pain of 5 out of 10 right now. That's one of the weird things about pain and medicine and hospitals and doctors. They have to take your word on the level of pain. And I told him, I said, look, the oxycodone. And as soon as I said oxycodone, he's like, whoa. And I was like, well, look, the oxycodone he gave me, was informed by a friend after the fact. It is literally the weakest form of oxycodone you can ever get. And I noticed when I took them from day one, it literally did nothing. He said, "So what'd you do?" I said, "So me being me, I said to self, it says to take one every 4 hours. How about I take three at a time and let's see what happens?" And his eyes got really big. And I said, "So I took three at a time. And what I noticed was my pain didn't decrease one bit, but I was able to fall asleep a lot easier." And then he just like, shrugged like, "Yeah, no duh." Um, I said, "But at the same token, I don't want to have to take these things at all." So he was like at least a little bit happy about that. 'Cause, yeah, I want to say it was 3 milligram of the oxy mixed with a lot of milligram of acetaminophen was the actual concoction of medications. And what I forgot to ask him was if he could renew my oxy prescription, because literally, if I don't take it previously before tonight, let me say I didn't sleep through the night. Maybe now I don't need it. Maybe. I mean, the bad thing about doing 2-hour podcast, post production is not fun. Okay, I'm gonna disconnect from here. I'm gonna go take some more acetaminophen and ibuprofen in conjunction. See if I can get a good night's sleep. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for hanging out. Red, man, always good to see you. 82 degrees, dew point 72, humidity 71. Doesn't sound comfortable at all. Make sure you get in some AC, my man. Take it easy.